2:01, look. You were late. No, I wasn't. I was out here too. Could we convene the meeting of June 18th? Everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
A quorum is present for City Council, Successor Agency, Housing Authority, and Finance Authority.
Public comment. Any persons wishing to address the City Council, Successor Agency, Housing Authority, or Finance Authority on any item on today's agenda may do so at this time. Ms. Ford, please come forward. Were you sitting down? I messed it up. I messed it up.
Is this on?
Yes, it's
Okay.
on.
Good afternoon, Mayor James Butts and George Dotson, Councilman Dotson and Alex Padilla, and Eloy Morales and Ralph Franklin. I want to come and say that with regards to the housing decision that you made last week, that was an extraordinary, extraordinary, extraordinary effort on the behalf of a wide range of people in the city of Inglewood, and it affected a wide range of people, of those family members. And your staff is extraordinary as well. And I also want to thank Melanie. I don't know if I can say her last name, if she wants to remain private. McDay? Okay. Well, many people here, and so she's a private person, so I didn't want to speak of her last name. But nevertheless, I just wanted to thank you from my heart to yours. When I came to the podium, I said, did you have a heart? I know that you have a heart, but I was waiting for them to see what heart you have. I also want to say to all of you, remember this: don't let anyone take your good name. And that's in God's holy Bible. Don't let no one take your good name, and never keep your eye off of what it is that you're doing. Because when folks try to come, when you do a wide range of things, and you have the city council and our mayor and your staff, and I mean it, you have an extraordinary, polite, respectful, loving, caring, kind staff. And I give respect to also the city clerk and her staff as well, because they work just as hard. And this combined effort, I just want everyone in the whole wide world to know, I don't have cable. I haven't had cable in 20 years. I don't see myself on TV, but I want the whole world to know that whoever is listening, that this is the best of the best of the best of the best that we've had, not to put anyone else to a shame. But I want to thank you from my heart to yours on voting for a 5% rent control, along with other things that benefited a wide range across the board. Thank you from my heart to yours.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. With that, we'll close public comment. Oh, no, I guess not. I guess we're...
So I, too, wanted to speak on the proposal that was made. During that time, a lot of people came here and spoke about their concerns, and I feel like some of those concerns were heard from the 8% to the 5%. But there are some concerns that I have from the amendments that were made and discussed, because it seemed like they were, for one, on the fly, and two, other people didn't really have enough time to be able to review them. But from what I gather, there would be an increase of 8% if $10,000 worth of repairs was presented. Now, for a lot of landlords, $10,000 writing an invoice for $10,000 worth of repairs is easy to do, and that would automatically change people's rent drastically. I think that 5% is actually too much. I think that it should have been 3 or 2% or put at CPI, but that's a concern that I have from what was being said. But I also think that we need to have a tenant control board that's elected by the population of Inglewood to discuss issues about rent increases, about repairs and things like that, because Inglewood is 63% renters, and that needs to be represented somewhere that's acknowledged by law so that the renters and the tenants, the population of Inglewood, is able to speak on the issues that affect them directly. But I do think that there needs to be more time to be able to understand the decisions that were made, because the changes that were made were at the last minute, and they were at the last moments of the city council meeting without any input of the community to respond to those things.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Ms. Wallace.
Hi, I'm really glad that we're moving in the direction towards rent control. It's something that has been needed for a long time, and I'm really happy that the community showed up in such a force to do that, and that we are moving in that direction. I also believe that there are ways that we can improve this ordinance as it's been put together, as well as the amendments. I also believe that 5% is way too high for Inglewood residents, especially considering that the median income is below the median income of Los Angeles residents. I think that we're not the same city as LA City, but at the same time, we're experiencing a lot of homelessness, a lot of runoff from that city that I think we should be able to take care of. The people who are living in motels and churches and other places in transition, I think that there also needs to be more protections for them as well, in addition to the renters who are living in Inglewood. I would also agree that the rental board has to be elected. It should be people who are decided by this community, and it needs to be majority tenant-based, because that is the makeup of Inglewood. We are 63% renters. I think that having perspective of people who are directly impacted by those laws, we're able to get a better insight into how people are living. Furthermore, I've heard a lot of homeowners talk about the issue of not being able to afford it for repairs. I don't think that should be put on the backs of tenants and people who are facing homelessness for someone who is maybe trying to make a profit. I think that the city should be able to allocate those funds to assist homeowners in making those kinds of repairs, so that it's not an unnecessary division between people who are tenants living in this community and people who are homeowners. We have the resources and the ability to help everyone throughout Inglewood to be able to survive and thrive, and that includes people who are facing homelessness, especially since so many people are living in their cars. We have the ability to give those people some type of an assistance, shelter assistance, so that they can come back to being renters and also be able to have jobs. So I hope that you take this into consideration and know that this is something that we'd like to see happen here.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, my name is Fred Sutton. I'm here on behalf of the California Apartment Association. We represent housing providers here in the city and throughout the state of California. And we're very supportive of the extension of the moratorium in hopes that there will be some more time for some clarifications or amendments to the ordinance, but focusing more on clarifications for today, because there's a few items in the ordinance we're not sure of for compliance reasons that we want to make sure our members are aware of. One of the items is a written notice and time to cure. There's already a state noticing requirement, 3 days to pay and quit, for instance. I'm not sure if this is a one-time written notice or if it's supposed to be a written notice on top of the state mandated written notice. And as it relates to the time to cure, is there a time frame, and what does it necessarily relate to? Because if someone is consistently late in paying rent, but they paid in full, do they always have a time to cure that, hence extending the deadline to pay rent? Page 9, at the bottom, I believe there should be a clarification.
What page was that, sir?
I do not have that page with me in front of me,
right.
but I'm happy to submit. I will be submitting written comments afterwards for either after this ordinance passes for the council to consider at this meeting or future meetings.
You know, we can always do an amendment if it's necessary at a later time.
Thank you. Page 9, a clarification. It reads as if someone might be able to be entitled to relocation even if they go through a for-cause eviction or noticing. And we just want to make sure that if someone is being evicted for non-payment of rent or nuisance conditions. I mean, that person we don't believe should be entitled to relocation
No, they
amounts.
shouldn't, and if it reads that way, that's wrong.
Ellis Act compliance, we think it needs to be written into here to comply with the Ellis Act as it relates to non-payment of rent or no payment if you're going to decide to go out of the business. Two other items that are not compliance-driven but capital improvements. As of right now, it says you're allowed up to 8% if approved by the board for 2 years to go up to 8%. We do not think that will incentivize the investment in capital improvement necessarily if you're going to be able to recoup that cost. We also, the below market allows you to go up to 81% as it's written, where I think it was discussed to be able to bring yourself up to market if you're below 80%. And as it relates to the no cause with relocation must be agreed upon with the tenant. We have, one, you can already agree with somebody to go into a private contract for, paying somebody for their cash for keys, creating some type of buyout plan people can do. But we're concerned that there might be a retaliation concept that can happen, that if you were deciding to try to pay somebody because there might be a nuisance issue that you want to work something out to end the contract, someone could come back and hit you with a retaliatory eviction if you then need to come back if they reject that. Well, I'm out of time. Anyway.
Go ahead, sir.
Also, when it comes to the allowable increase, the only thing I wanted to point out, the 5%, 8% are allowable. This does not mean landlords are coming and giving a 5%, 8% each year. It's allowable rent increase.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's a maximum.
Mayor Butts, members of the City Council, I'm Morris Griffin, better known as Big Money.
Big
Griff,
money.
The problem
That's a nice
solver.
hat.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that.
All right.
As a result, I would hope that the voters of Inglewood would demand a charter amendment for year 2020, not only to get rid of Donald Trump, but also to help ourselves help each other when we talk about this regentrification and rent control, on a charter amendment saying that you can't raise the rent for 5 years, and when you do raise the rent, you can only raise it 2 or 3%. We cannot keep up with the stats. When you talk about 8% or 5%, to me, I get 2% raise at the County of Los Angeles for the last 31 years. And my 2% doesn't match the 5%, so eventually I'm going out. Right now, if we were to look at Dodger Stadium, we could fill Dodger Stadium right now today with just the homelessness in LA. 9,000 people this year went into homelessness because of rent control. So I say that to say this. If Proposition EE had passed 2 weeks ago for the schools, it would have targeted homeowners in the state of California. And what I mean by that, they would have been taxed at least $1,000. Many of these people are on fixed incomes in their homes. So I would include—
Mr. Griffin, that's LA. That's not on this agenda.
I understand.
Okay, no, you're going to have to stop. That's not on this agenda.
Okay, well then if it's not on this agenda, that's fine.
Okay.
I can
All
step
right.
aside from that. But
Okay,
I'm back on
I was going to
the—
say, you don't just have to use the 3 minutes to use the 3 minutes. If you're done with Inglewood, don't go to LA elections.
Well, I beg to differ. I have to do both. As a community
Oh,
activist,
okay,
as
well,
a brother
sir,
like no other from
sir,
another mother,
sir,
I have to do it
sir,
all.
if you're not going
I'm
to talk about it,
qualified, I'm bona fide, and I'm certified to do it all. Say what?
sir, all I want you to do is talk about Inglewood issues. That's all.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
I said okay.
Okay, all right.
I can do that. So I'm back with the issue of this problem that we're facing here. 2 months ago, I was told that— I said to Willie Agee and some others downstairs, I said, what's going on, brothers? I'm not your brother. I got 9 apartment buildings. I said, well, you can't take it to the grave with you. I don't want to take it to the grave. F you. Now, all I'm saying is that you had other people come up here and tell you that they had put a roof on their apartment buildings and that they have to cover that cost. You know and I know that that's a tax write-off. So why are we being told by these homeowners, renters who own apartments, that they have to incur that cost? And we sat up there and ate that. Well, I'm not going to buy that because you know that it's a tax write-off. And those of us that know, like that nose is on our face, know better. So each one need to teach one when we spread the word what you heard. That's all of my time. Thanks for yours. This is Mars Griffin, better known as Big Money Griff, strong community activist, leader, and problem solver. I'm out.
Thank you so much. How you gonna follow that, Malcolm?
I know that's a hard act to follow, Mayor, but greetings, Mayor and City Council. A couple of things already been said. We didn't get a chance to really thoroughly go through the amendments, but we're glad to say that you would consider some of the amendments. Most of it, a lot has to do with clarification in terms of some of the items in that, and I think the speaker said before, we were a little concerned about the Ellis Act provisions that's not in there, and some clarification in terms of the capital improvement pass-through, and which was more important is the double noticing of a tenant, and if a tenant is in breach and they move out, does that, the way the ordinance reads, that they would still get a relocation fee, which obviously we don't believe that was intended in the ordinance. So I think you have some cleanup language in there. There's a few other items that I think may be conflict, but we would certainly submit those to you in writing and hope that you would then consider making some amendments just to clarify some of those things that we think would have a misunderstanding between the rental property owners and tenants. And thank you very much.
All right.
My name is Willie A.G., and I live in the beautiful city of Inglewood, California, and proud of it. I would just like to say to this council and staff and the elected officials that you have done a heck of a job in the last 8 years, 7, 8 years, and I'd like to see you continue to do it. I don't think there's another city in the United States that could even come close to what's going on in the city of Inglewood. And I'll give you an A+, all of you. But one thing I'm concerned about, you've been taking care of this city for 8 years, and I want you to continue to do it. I wonder if these people that's coming up here crying about rent control ever owned any income property and realize what income property is about. Because I've owned income property. I got rid of it, and that's the best thing I ever did. Never made any money off of it because the tenants tore up the places and never wanted to pay. Half of them didn't want to pay rent. If they, I'm against this rent control. I believe people have to get off their behinds and do something for themselves. The more that you do for people, the more they want you to do. Nobody did nothing for me, and I've done all right in life. So I'm here to say to you guys, hold it in the road, because there ain't another city that's doing what you guys done, and you got people that come in here and want to tear this city down. They want to demean you guys, but don't let them do it. Hold it in the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. A.G.
Hello, my name is Orion Gould. I was at the meeting last week, and I think that meeting showed that there were a lot of frustrations that had been built up for a long time over the issue of rent control in the city. And I think that the measures that were passed were a step in the right direction, but that there needs to be vigilance both on the part of the council and on the part of the population here in Inglewood to make sure that these measures are put forward in earnest and true to what was said in the previous week. I think that the council and the renters board is going to be an extremely important step for the city in terms of there being a channel for remediation of these issues. So last week probably showed that communication between A lot of your constituents and the council has not been as effective as it could be, and the board might provide a venue for that to be the case. So this board needs to be pursued, I think, with a real effort, and I think that it needs to be democratized as much as possible to make sure that people feel that their voices are actually heard on this board, as opposed to it being some sort of figurehead or symbolic concession. I think additionally, when some people are concerned that there would be, loopholes within this measure when it comes to the maintenance provisions, in terms of $10,000 a year that would justify an 8% increase. There needs to be an earnest effort to make sure that there's transparency between renters and their tenants to make sure that all of this maintenance is actually occurring and occurring in ways that is beneficial to the tenants. So, if some paper...
It's not maintenance, sir. It's repairs, upgrades. Routine maintenance is not included in the 10,000.
Okay, but even so, if these repairs aren't happening...
That's where you're supposed to say okay.
Oh,
But go ahead.
But even if these legitimate repairs, such as roof repair or
Right.
plumbing or whatever, it needs to be followed through.
Absolutely.
And renters need to be telling their tenants that this work is being done. Because in many cases, if there isn't that transparency...
What's your name again, sir?
Orion Gould.
Okay, Mr. Gould, there's an inspection process built into the ordinance where first invoices have to be submitted to the rental commission, and then the inspection is made by the city or a contractor to see that the work really needs to be done. And then after the work is done, and then that it is inspected by the city or a contractor, only then will they receive the exemption to go to 8%.
As long as that is carried out faithfully, then I think that that's a good measure. It just needs to be, held to account.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gould.
So, Mayor, City Council and staff, I made it. Phew. I'll be as delicate as I can when I say this. Don't allow this to become just another layer of bureaucracy. I personally believe that this problem is going to work itself out within 5 years anyway. People who really want to stay here will still be here. They will find a way. If it's that important to them, they'll find a way. And they shouldn't find a way at my expense or anyone else's in here expense. And, I think it's a good thing to make sure that our units that are rented out are held to a higher standards. After all, this is Inglewood. We don't take second tier. And so with that, I'd say, like I said, I think you hit the sweet spot. And we can't, I don't know what else we could do at this point. Because personally, I have a property here. It doesn't fall under these categories. I'm home and dry. But yeah, I'm expecting to put some profit in my pocket. Why would I go to the trouble of owning an apartment complex unless I was going to make money? Why wouldn't I? I'm not going to be stupid and price all my tenants out. But by the same token, yeah, I want to drive a better car. I'll make the sacrificing investment when I'm younger or what have you. But again, I'm being redundant. This will work itself out in 4 or 5 years. Don't let anyone set up a bureaucracy on us so that they'll be coming back every year asking for more and more and more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Are there any more public comment? Okay, with that, we'll, ma'am, come on up. Right. Hi.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pamela Mcdaniel. I am a Cal State Dominguez Hills graduate. I've been living in the city of Inglewood for the past 15 years. And throughout my 15 years of living here, I have seen a lot of changes. I've seen it grow and evolve into an amazing city, but there's also a lot of downfalls that has happened recently. My tenant, my landlord has raised up our rent 4 times.
Did he do it in
It is very unstable.
in the moratorium? Has he done it during the moratorium period?
At first, when he started, it was an increase of $200, which is almost an increase of 20%.
But when did
Almost 20%.
When did it happen?
This happened on May of this year. May of this year.
Well,
And then I told him my rights, that the city of Inglewood has 5% cap of rent increase.
Okay.
Then he came and put a whiteout on it, and he put whiteout on the $200 and raised it to $58. And I was like, this is not legit. This is not real. You can't just do that. And then he said, you know what? The city of Inglewood hasn't decided anything, so I'm going to raise it back to $200. I have proof of all this, $200 back again. And now he was like, you know what? Bless you. You know what? They're still deciding, and they might do 8%. So you know what? I'm going to change it to 8%. So now it's $94. It keeps increasing, decreasing, increasing, decreasing. This is ridiculous. This is unstable at best. Me and my colleagues over there from the neighborhood have gathered up to talk and get my voice heard about this, because you need to know this.
Okay, and I'm glad you do. The
Yes.
city attorney's going to step outside with you and tell you what you need to do.
Sure,
But no,
okay.
they cannot raise it more than 5% in a 12-month period, and that's solid, and that's the way it's going to be.
Thank you.
All right?
Yes.
And could you do a favor for me? Ken, would you get her landlord's name and phone number? All right,
Okay, thank you so much.
all right. Okay, with that, we'll close public comment. Item 1, CSA 1 and H1.
Who allow payment?
Wait a minute.
She's got to call
She's
it.
got to call it.
Warrant register?
Go for it, George.
George now.
Allow payment. Second.
Madam Clerk.
City Council, Successor Agency, and Housing Authority members. Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Chairman Butts.
Aye. Consent calendar items 2 through 7.
So moved. Second.
Madam Clerk.
Council members. Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. SPH 1.
Staff report recommending adoption of a resolution to adopt the fiscal year 2019-20 Citizen Participation Plan and set public hearings for the fiscal year 2019-2020 for consolidated plan process.
Move item 1. Second.
So,
Hold on.
What about-
Is there a staff report?
No, this is
Not setting the public hearing.
Oh, setting. Oh, I see what you're
We
saying.
do
Okay.
it by resolution.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
this is for item number 1.
One only.
Item number 1.
Adopting the resolution.
Okay, I have the motion. Who's second?
Second.
Dotson, thank you. Council members, Dotson,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Set the public hearing for July 9, 2019 at 2 p.m. to receive public comments on the draft fiscal year 2019-2020 annual action plan. And 3, set the public hearing for December 10th, 2019 at 2 p.m. to receive public comments on the draft fiscal year 2018-2019 consolidated annual performance evaluation report, the CAPER. A1.
So your attorney's outside.
I'll tell you this, there are no reports because there was no closed session. So, CM1,
There are no council city manager reports.
CC1, CT1,
Thank you, Mayor. USA Today had an article, I think it was June the 13th, regarding reverse mortgages, and it pointed out that's especially hard hit with some lower income black neighborhoods, which was targeted by unscrupulous lenders. It mentioned that some 100,000 loans have failed. And it mentioned also that in its first account analysis, more than 1.3 million loans recorded discovered that reverse mortgages end in foreclosure 6 times more often in predominantly black neighborhoods than in those that in predominantly white neighborhoods. And also, I'd like to mention that some of the zip codes in Inglewood that were affected was 90305, 04, 03, 02, and 01. But Inglewood was rather slightly affected as compared to some of the other cities, like Compton, for example. Inglewood was roughly like 2%, and Compton was 12%, 10%. And Gardena was a small amount also. Joshua Tree 19%, Homeland 18%, Oakland 13%, Big Bear 12%. So these are some of the cities that was affected by the reverse mortgages. And what some of the what those who take out reverse mortgage need to keep in mind is that basically you absolutely can lose your home with a reverse mortgage. There are certain mandatory requirements that you absolutely must do. And one of them is property taxes must be current. And also your insurance must be current. And also the property maintenance must be maintained for the property. Because you generally can receive the money in a lump sum or in a series of payments. But again, you got to keep in mind if you mismanage that money that you receive in a lump sum, you'll be in the same leaky boat, within a very short period of time. So that's very important. You absolutely have to manage the funds. And also those that may be considering taking out a reverse mortgage, insist on that educational class, because in that educational class they explain what a reverse mortgage is and what the requirements are, and you will get information that otherwise you may not know. So it is a good way to stay in your home, but also it's also a way that you can lose your home if you don't maintain certain requirements, which is property taxes, insurance, and maintenance of the home. Also, I'd like to mention regarding some of the economic news. If I can have another minute, Mayor.
Of course you can.
Well, thank you. The U.S. inflation rate fell to 1.8%, and the U.S. Budget deficit widened to $208 billion. As of June the 14th, our national debt is $22.0257 trillion. As of January of 2017, it was $19.9 trillion. President Trump contribution is $2.129 trillion. The interest that has been paid on this debt for fiscal year 2018-19 is $354 billion. And the interest paid in fiscal year 2017-18 is $523 billion on the national debt. That concludes my remarks, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Treasurer, I'm really going to thank you for that information about reverse mortgages. Most people don't know that if you fall behind on your property taxes or your insurance payments, the bank will levy fines of like $20,000 immediately. And so that's very important information because for the first time, we have residents that can take advantage of reverse mortgages because they have equity that has appeared in their homes over the last 5 years. It's more than doubled their property value, but that's an important facet of a reverse mortgage. Thank you very much. CI1.
Yes, Mayor. Initiative by Mayor James T. Butts Jr. recommending the introduction and adoption of the second extension of urgency interim ordinance number 1907, limiting rent increases to 5% per year on certain residential properties within the city of Inglewood for an additional 180 days. And Mayor, if I'm not mistaken, we should have done CI2 first.
Let's see here. Just a minute. Let me think this through. I do believe this is an okay order because what we want to do first and foremost is make sure that the temporary moratorium does not expire between now and the time that we can come back for the second reading. So I believe this is the right order. Okay. I also want to explain to people what we're doing here is that so that the moratorium doesn't time out between the introduction and the second reading of the ordinance before it becomes law, that we're extending the moratorium. This also gives us a flexibility if we felt there were more changes that needed to be made over the 30 days, that we could make changes and further refine the ordinance if we felt that's necessary. I'm going to make some recommendations here at the dais today, and so I think this is the right order.
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion to waive further?
Wait for the reading.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Abstain. I wasn't here on June 11th.
And Mayor Buds.
Aye. And I move 2 and 3, the motion to introduce and the motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
But you introduced, they accepted that already?
Yeah, yes, he's introducing and then,
Adopted, okay, second, yeah.
okay,
We do it both at once?
yes and no.
Okay, well, let's do 2. Move to,
Only because, and I just need to, be clear because we're introducing the emergency ordinance, but we have to have a motion to waive further reading.
we just did that. You just
Oh, we
called it.
did,
You
okay,
just
I'm
called that.
sorry, yes, sir, we did,
Yes.
we did,
Okay,
my
but
apologies.
we'll make it easy because it says and, so I was going to move 2 and
So,
3.
and that's fine, so
I
we're
mo- I
fine.
moved 2 and 3.
Yes, sir. Council members Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Abstain.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. Just to be clear, Councilman Franklin, you weren't there for the moratorium vote. I know you weren't there for the initiative. Okay. I was just making sure.
But going one step further, well, the city attorney's not here, but I don't think there's a problem either way. if it
Okay.
passes.
It's just.
Only
I just want to be
because-
safe and sorry because I wasn't there to deliberate
No.
and receive
Oh,
the input
okay.
that the public provided.
Okay.
And then there was amendments that was made, which I was not able to dwell on or expand on.
But that's the one we're doing right now.
Exactly.
We're doing this right now.
The one.
The second one is the one that you would have that choice. But I believe you were
And
here
it's a
for.
choice.
I
Permission to
believe
speak?
I believe you were here for the moratorium.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was here for the issue on April 16th, yes.
Yes. And see, that's what we just voted on.
Just extended that action.
But the item that you're referencing, CI1, did say that on June 11th, the council deliberated and was introducing as amended. So there was amendments that was done on June 11th, and that was not part of the initial one. That's why I obtained.
And just to be my last comment on it, but that was not for the moratorium. The moratorium was not amended. The initiative was. The initiative was. So to vote on the extension, you don't have any comment, but you don't have to. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay. CI2.
Yes, Mayor. Initiative by Mayor James T. Butts Jr. recommending the introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 8 of the Inglewood Municipal Code to add a new article, number 9, for the regulation of rent increases and just causes evictions for certain covered residential rental units.
Before we go any further, I want to make a motion to amend that initiative with the following. After further review and conferring with staff and the city attorney, I'm making a motion to amend the proposed ordinance as follows. 1, on page 3, line 26, include the end date of April 1, 2020. The reason, the properties listed will be exempt from the ordinance until April 1, 2020, based on the fact that they voluntarily provided relocation fee assistance or alternative residential rental housing to tenants prior to the enactment of the moratorium. 2, removal of the first page 6, the reason. Inadvertently, there were 2 page numbers 6 included in the agenda packet. Prior to printing, Section D, capital improvement rent increases, line 15, was amended to read, applied for more than once in a 5-year period. Motion number 3, on page 6, section 8-122, evictions and relocation fees, has been stricken in its entirety and replaced with a new section 8-122 entitled Just Cause for Eviction Required for Covered Rental Units. The reason, this amendment establishes the just cause eviction policy and removes the termination of tenancy without cause, and adds section 8-122.8, owner move-in, and 8-122.9, permanent withdrawal of covered rental units from the rental market into the definition of just cause. I believe this will cover the concern raised about compliance with the Ellis Act. Motion number 4, Section 8-123, actions to recover possession in compliance with the article, has been changed to Section 8-124, and a new Section 8-123 is entitled Relocation Fees. The reason, renumbered the section to include verbiage on when tenants are eligible for relocation fees and the amounts, evictions pursuant to Sections 8-122.8, owner move-in, and 8-122.9, permanent withdrawal of covered rental unit from the rental market, again, compliance with the Ellis Act. Motion number 5, the remaining sections formerly numbered 8-123, actions to recover possession compliance with the article, 8-124, civil remedies, 8-125, retaliation prohibited, 8-126, enforcement procedures, 8-127, landlord's rights, have been renumbered to correspond sequentially. The reason, with the new amendments, this sequence of section numbers has been changed. Motion number 6. In an eviction for cause, there will be no relocation fees required. Some of the sections are non-payment of rents, criminal activities, so forth, so on and so forth. So motion number 6 is to change for cause evictions will require no relocation fees. Motion number 7, in case the other sections would not make it clear, we will comply, this ordinance will comply with the protections of the Ellis Act. And motion number 8, noticing requirements for this ordinance will be reconciled with state noticing requirements.
I will second that as a package motion.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
I will vote for that, yes.
And Mayor Buds.
Aye. Is there a motion to waive further reading?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. And I'll introduce. CSA 2.
Approval of the minutes for the successor agency meeting held on June 4th, 2019.
Move.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Successor agency members Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. H2.
Approval of the minutes for the Housing Authority meeting held on June 4th, 2019.
Move.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Housing Authority members Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Chairman Buds.
Aye. F1.
Approval of the minutes for the Finance Authority meeting held on June 4th, 2019.
Move.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Finance Authority members Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Chairman Buds.
Aye. Public comment. Any persons who wish to address the City Council on any matter connected with city business not elsewhere considered on the agenda may do so at this time. 1 minute.
Good afternoon, council members and staff. I'm here to talk about something that I had done. I had a contract made up to do some remodeling. I want to warn people out there, just because somebody has good credit rate or has good ratings and stuff, make sure you check into them real early. They quoted me a price, and then they got into it, and they doubled the price of just the project for the one project half again to $20-some thousand to put on a 360-foot square roof. Well, needless to say, I told them to get out of here. And I started looking around, and I looked at our local businesses that are licensed contractors, and I had them come out there. They did it for 1/3 the price. So pay attention to who you have come out and do work on your house, because they're crooks out there, and they look real good and everything, but they're bait and hook. So watch out for it, because it's going to happen. The other thing I wanted to say, you guys have done this. I have voted for every one of you members and staff for every election to make sure you have taken care of the Inglewood's city money and our taxes, and it did a great job with your job. So thank you very much.
Sir.
Hello, City Council. My name is Bonifacio Bravo. I own a few properties in Inglewood. My complaint is that the city of Inglewood charged me $3,392 for pushing out my trash can, which was never done. At first, it was a bin rental, which was $24, and all of a sudden it went to $67.58. I asked for my money back, city attorney. They offered me $850-some. I asked the city council, it should be against the law to charge customers that kind of money.
Sir, let me understand this. So this is a trash collection charge?
Yes.
Okay, and the trash collection charge is because you have a trash can or a bin?
I have a trash can. A bin.
You have a bin?
Yes.
So you have a business?
Yeah.
They're charging you now to pull out the bin outside.
They never touch my bin.
That's the issue, though.
They've never been pulled out of my yard
But
because
they're charging you anyway.
yes.
Oh, okay, so the refuse company is doing that, but the city's billing you, right?
Pardon me?
Okay, so Miss Williams will take you outside and she'll look into your issue and
I have all the breakdowns here. On
no,
my-
I know, but she's right there.
The city attorney
Sir,
offered me.
Miss Williams, stand up. Come forward, please, because he's not going to stop until you come up here.
Well,
Sir, she's going to take care of it right there. Sir, she's outside waiting for you. All right. Sir.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Joshua. I'm an Inglewood resident, born and raised here. Went to Highland, Crozier, and then Inglewood High. It's in regards to the CDBG funds. There was a survey that was given out, and yesterday was a deadline. I wasn't able to hand that in. I was calling, but nobody was in the offices, so I wanted to hand it to one of you guys personally. I've been working on a project for the last couple of years that I believe will help a lot of people in the city of Inglewood, job creation, help the elderly in their transition into this digital economy that we're entering, and just wanted to hand this letter to you guys.
Yeah, Mr. Sparsa right there.
Thank you.
Again. Well, we won't be able to help her then. Okay, thank you. All right, okay.
In a different way.
Okay.
Hi, I just wanted to kind of make a comment on some of the motions that you made because I wasn't able to really comment on them before. So there's about 8 motions, looks like they were introduced in addition to some subpoints. And where is that information going to be posted so the public can be able to read that?
For the second reading?
For the
when we bring it back for the second reading, it'll be posted on the agenda.
So that will be in 180 days or 30 days?
Oh, no, in less than 30 days.
In less than 30 days. Okay, I was just reading here that it's at 180. So
180 days is the extension limit for the moratorium in case we didn't have the process ready for the permanent ordinance.
But in 30 days, we'll be revisiting it to talk about this information.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And I also wanted to ask about something that I had read that that last year we took $36 million in new debt to cover up a deficit. Is that correct?
It's absolutely incorrect.
That's not correct.
Absolutely false.
Where would I find information that would counteract what I'm reading?
Well, I'm telling you right now, it's false.
I understand that, and I'm hearing what you're saying, but where would I read that just to confirm?
We can't give you information for something we didn't do.
Okay, where would I read about the city's deficit?
City doesn't have a deficit. We had a $3.3 million surplus at the end of the last fiscal year.
Okay, and so where would I read information about that? The surplus, whatever you're saying, you're saying we have a surplus and that things are going well.
Absolutely.
Where would we find that information?
Well, actually, there was a budget book and a budget report.
Available at the library or at the city clerk's office. I believe they keep a copy.
It's available at the library or the city clerk's office to read that information. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. Just wanted to make sure. Okay.
And Ms. Wallace, we have a $60 million surplus in our reserve general fund. Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to speak briefly on some of the recent law enforcement shootings that have happened in the city of Inglewood, either by Inglewood PD or by the sheriffs. I think it's so important that we keep our people safe and feeling safe. And I understand, especially with the Edtwan Jordan that recently died, I think about 2 weeks ago, it was at the hands of the sheriffs, that there's a lot of concern about that. And I know that some of the records that have been shredded before, I think that needs to not happen again, and that there needs to be the utmost transparency when there are officer-involved shootings, especially in this case where the mother is saying that her son was unarmed. In addition to issues around rent and other issues that people have, we shouldn't be afraid to walk down the street because the people who are being employed by us, namely law enforcement, may end our lives.
Okay, but if you're concerned about that sheriff's department, OIS, you'd have to go down the county board of supervisors or the sheriff's department because those were not Inglewood officers.
But that has happened before where people were killed in Inglewood by Inglewood officers. This is public comment. So we, as citizens here, have a right to speak on issues that affect that happen in our community, even if they're not committed by, in that case, the sheriffs.
Help you, ma'am, that's all.
Oh, great. Thank you for the help.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I wanted to invite the Mayor, Council, and the public out. The Chamber of Commerce has a business networking mixer this Thursday, 5:30 p.m. at Toaster Artistry, where we'll be presenting 21 students in Inglewood schools with scholarships to help them with going to college. So we wanted to invite all you guys out, Toaster Artistry at 5:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again, Mayor, City Council, and staff. My quick 2 cents is that to my fellow Inglewood residents, there's an old saying, I believe it's Korean, don't believe anything you hear and half the things you see. City is not the city it was 5 years ago, where no one cared about anything happening in this city unless it involved a police shooting and a dead body. Now, you got front page news if you got into an accident and who's making the payment. And I'll help the lady out that spoke earlier. It's in the Daily Breeze. And yeah, it's, somebody can't count at the Daily Breeze. I'll leave it at that. And this is, it comes down to power, people, and who's going to wield it. I don't want outsiders dictating my quality of life. I don't care if it upsets them. I don't care if they think their cause is a just cause. That's just the way it is, because they weren't here when times were lean. They weren't here when our school district was taken over by the state. But now you got folks that I've never seen at a council meeting before showing up talking about how great the city is. Yeah, because they want to benefit from it. And that's all good. But bring something to the table. Thank you for my bicentennial minute.
Mayor, members of the City Council, I'd just like to commend the Inglewood Police Department for coming to the rescue of a date rape that I was able to partially observe going up 90th behind the Great Western Forum, and they expeditiously caught the assailant who was making some attempt at this fine-looking protomastic femininity in Inglewood. So I'm happy to say that I commend the Inglewood Police Department in that regard. So it's not all doom and gloom when coming from Big Money Griff. So I just want to share that with you. Also, coming off the 10 freeway on Century Boulevard, there is a blue sign that says Forum Racetrack. Coming off the Century, off the 10. There's
mean
a
the 405?
blue sign saying Forum Racetrack. I think we need to have that. Huh?
10 freeways in LA.
I mean,
105? 105? 405?
not the 405, the
105?
105.
Got it.
Anyway, when I go downtown and I'm coming back home, I come off the Century ramp because we have some maintenance being done. I see a blue sign saying Forum Racetrack, and I think we need to have that. All right? All right.
Right.
Willie A.G., like I say, hold it in the road. You're being invaded. So I hope you're aware of that. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll close public comment, council comment. Councilman Dotson, District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no comments. I just want to thank the people for coming out, giving us their suggestion, and ordinance to let you know that we are listening. So,
Councilman Padilla, District 2.
Great, thanks, Mayor. Again, thanks everybody for coming out. This rent stabilization ordinance is, it's the hot topic, and it's impacting so many of us. So we continue to get inquiries, phone calls, emails, and as you saw by today, there's still folks that are very much emotionally involved in this, and rightfully so, because it impacts our families. So I get that. And so we are listening, and that's evident by these amendments that are being made to let folks know that we hear you, and we're going to do our best to get this right. And we're going to continue to do it so that Inglewood is at the tip of the spear. We're the ones that are leading the charge. We're the ones that are making the right moves. But be patient with us, but know that we are looking out for the best interests of everyone in the city of Inglewood, not just the renters, not just the landlords, but everyone. So I also just want to make a comment. 4th of July is coming up. I'm getting phone calls. I know the other council members and the mayor's getting calls about these large bangs and all the fireworks and all that. Those are all illegal fireworks. The only ones that are legal in the city of Inglewood are the Safe and Sane fireworks. Our fireworks booths have not opened up, and they won't be open for at least another 2 to 3 weeks. So what you're listening to is the illegal fireworks. So if that's the case, please call the police department at 412-8771, and then they will take appropriate measures to go out there and see what they can do. But again, those are the only legal fireworks in the city of Inglewood, and they're only legal on the 4th of July from 5 to 10, and that's Safe and Sane fireworks. So with that, enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.
Hey, look, Padilla didn't use 3 minutes. I don't know. It's done.
felt like 5.
Councilman Franklin, District 4.
Yes, I just want to thank everyone for their indulgence. I had some family matters that took me out of the state, so I couldn't make it last Tuesday, and so now I'm back on track. I do also want to acknowledge those that have the patience and of Job. Be mindful that we are working on Imperial Highway. Progress has been made. We found out there's more items in the street as you're doing the repairs than anticipated, so it's delaying the process, but currently has been repaved all the way from Prairie to Yukon. and we're now moving forward to go all the way to the other end of the state, the city line, which will be all the way to Van Ness. The other item, just letting you know that the AM/PM gas station that's located at 3611 Imperial Highway, which is currently vacant, AQMD has finally concluded their public hearings and has authorized this project to move forward. So we can now put in the gas tanks that's going to be at that location, and then we will have a future AM/PM mini market with an Arco gas station. On that note, have a blessed day. Thank you.
Councilman Morales, District 3.
No, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out and continuing to give us points. And I think our process has shown that we are listening, and you know, it's also shown there are some things we didn't think about, but we are accepting as comments. We're thinking about them, and we are including them, and that'll continue throughout, you know, the duration. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you, Mayor. That's it.
Okay. You know, I wasn't going to mention it, but since, you know, someone asked the question, and some people that spoke have alluded to it, what has been happening for quite some time now is that the local newspapers of record, I mean the bigger ones, the Breeze and the Times, they've really engaged in some reporting that we just, you know, we shrug off. But it's getting to the point where it's ridiculous. And I'm going to explain one thing to you. In 1944, the voters voted to allow a pension tax levy that was meant to pay the cost of PERS, entering into PERS, and to pay pensions for the employees. And in 1983, there was a council ordinance introduced for a pension override tax, 14 cents per $100. And that was meant to enact the provisions of that 1944 vote. They let bonds at that time to pay a shortfall in the unfunded liability for PERS. And it was challenged because after 1978, you know, Prop 13 said you couldn't introduce new taxes without a vote of the people. Well, it was found by a court that as long as it satisfied, paid the obligations for pensions as they existed in 1978, meaning the rate, like it was probably 2% at 50 for police and 1.5%, I'm just giving an example for the other employees. But as long as it paid that portion of the obligation, even though we paid that later on higher percentages were adopted, as long as they paid that threshold level, that tax would exist into perpetuity, and it was meant to finance pensions. So the unfortunate thing was, in 1983, the city's credit wasn't good, and those bonds went out at 5%. Our bond rating now allows us to get 3%. And so to save money, we defeased those bonds and reissued bonds. At the same time, we added the current payment to PERS into that amount because that's what that tax is for, to pay pension obligations. The bond rating agencies, our bond council, all approve this. And so it is not a new tax. It's an ongoing obligation. And we prepaid the portion for this year because it wasn't going to close until after the beginning of the fiscal year. When that bond closed, that sale closed, we replenished the general fund. So it was the money that we had in the general fund all along. The papers tried to write it that we used it was 35 million, not 36 million, to close a, quote, staggering deficit. Now, this is really outrageous, and it said that we had struggled for years with our finances. Starting in 2016, Moody's issued an advisory that of the cities that they rate nationwide, as a percentage of our unfunded, as a percentage of our unobligated general fund reserves compared to our spending plan, which at that point the rate was 43%, we far exceed any Moody's rated city in the country for liquidity and financial stability. Our general fund balance has increased since then, so I doubt that that's changed. So they wrote a story that said we've been staggering financially. Then they said, with the bond proceeds, that we paid raises to executive staff and gave bonuses. Well, let me tell you something. Every employee in the city got a 5% raise last year. But they didn't mention that because they wanted to look evil, like it was just the executives. This is not an accident. Then they went and said that we used the money on pet projects. Let me tell you what the pet projects were. $1.6 million to redo Ash Park. We bought 20 new police cars. We put aside money to take out the asbestos carpet in the main library. We put aside $1 million to redo the roof at the city yard that leaks during the winter. Those were the, quote, pet projects. I'm sorry, this is no accident, folks. Sunday I'd had enough. I've written a letter to the Breeze and asked to meet with their editors. The stories they write, this is the most successful city in the country. And every story has something like this, potentially illegal. There's no law that says the mayor can drive a car. I'm the CEO of this city. And they said there's no law that says you can't walk on a sidewalk between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. either. Laws aren't meant to tell you what you can do, they tell you what you can't do. But every story, illegality, no law, this is getting to be a habit. So they wrote a story recently about my brother who got a job in 2012 that he applied for himself, about a vote that I didn't take part in. And they said because somebody, and it was a council member here, made a complaint to the district attorney's office, which was found to be unfounded. They said, I quote, dodged prosecution. Now think of the implication in that. So anyone files a malicious and false allegation against you, and then if they find as it is, it's nothing, then you dodge prosecution. So this is enough. And since it was brought up, I want to tell you, I've had enough. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting.